Hello, my name is Jay Stewart Grad, although my friends call me Jerry. Um, if you're tuning into this video, I'm assuming you have some concerns about a personal injury matter. Now, this office handles all kinds of personal injury matters, whether it's an automobile accident or a slip and fall, malpractice, uh, product liability. In fact, we've got a couple of product liability cases going on right now. So we've got experience in all those areas. Most people have a problem with an accident or an injury resulting from an automobile accident. What a lot of people are not aware of, and this is some useful information I hope, is that your rights to file a claim in an automobile accident are determined initially by your own auto insurance policy on your own vehicle. So for instance, if you're stopped at a red light and you get rear-ended by a drunk who's going 100 miles an hour and you suffered injuries, it's not automatic that you've got a claim. Your claim will be determined by your own insurance policy. Um, One of the services we provide is we will look at your insurance policy at no charge whatsoever to determine whether or not you've got the best coverage to protect you in the event of that kind of scenario, that kind of accident. There's also an additional coverage in your policy that most people are not aware of. It's called UM or UIM. Those claims get triggered if you're involved in an automobile accident by someone who does not have insurance or has less insurance than you have, or in some instances no insurance at all. You can conceivably have a claim against your own insurance company to compensate you for your injuries. But again, that's something that we look at very carefully, and it's triggered by your own insurance policy. Now, if you're involved in an accident or suffer an injury, whether it's a slip and fall or an automobile accident or injured by a product or malpractice, it's very important, if possible, to take pictures. If there's an accident scenes change as the seasons change, and it's often helpful to get scene or photographs at the scene, whether it's photographs of damage to vehicles or ground. If there's ice and snow on the ground, it's important to get those kinds of pictures. Another thing that's important is if you're injured, you'll undoubtedly go through a series of possible treatment, whether it's physical therapy, surgery, MRIs, which are objective tests. It's important to have to maintain a diary of not only what you experience day to day, the impact these injuries have on your day-to-day life, whether it's dealing with your family, dealing with your employers or co-workers, dealing with your neighbors, dealing with your kids. It's important to keep a diary of your feelings on almost a day-to-day basis. That'll be very helpful later on. Also, in talking to your doctors, it's important. Very often doctors will make comments when they're examining you or treating you, and those comments don't find their way into their medical records. So again, it's important after a meeting with a doctor or a physical therapist or an MRI that if there are any comments made, you should write those down and keep a record of those, because very often these cases and that evidence doesn't become relevant for many, many months and sometimes even longer. Another thing that's very important in this day and age is social media. You should not delete anything from your social media, but you should not put anything on your social media regarding the accident or your injuries or your course of treatment, because it's a virtual guarantee that whatever you have on social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, whatever, Instagram, whatever, the insurance company is going to get to that information. So if you have to use your social media, use the strictest restriction in terms of who has access to it. It's not unheard of that defense attorneys will have their secretaries or their employees try and befriend you so that they can have access to your social media. And to give you a very simple example, what happens if you're involved in an accident and a few months later there's a picture on Facebook showing you skiing? and having a great time, or skiing or down the beach, while at the same time you're complaining of having serious injuries as a result of an accident. Believe me, that will, the insurance companies and their attorneys will get hold of those, and that's why we ask our clients to restrict any social media activity regarding their accident, how the accident happened, the course of treatment, what doctors told them, and so forth. That can all become, public if you want it to become public after your matter is resolved by trial or settlement. Very often also people are injured on the job. We handle workers' compensation cases, and sometimes there's both a workers' compensation case and a separate liability case against the individual that caused the problem, as long as it wasn't a co-employee. So we also handle, workers' compensation, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you might have on that. Also, it's not uncommon for insurance companies, particularly in cases where it's alleged that there are serious injuries, they will often have surveillance. They will often have private eyes or detectives follow you around, and they'll follow you from a distance. You won't see them. They could be half a mile away or so, filming your activities. So if you're out there chopping wood, or replacing, fixing a tire on your car, while at the same time complaining of neck or back injuries, believe me, they'll have a picture of it. So you always have to be aware of the fact that they might be out there taking your picture. We've had situations where one particular insurance company had a detective follow my client from the minute he walked out of his house to the minute he went back into his house. And they did that for 3 or 4 or 5 days in a row. Fortunately, there was nothing damaging on those films, but that's the kind of lengths that they will go to. Also, and lastly, it's very important that your friends, relatives, co-workers, neighbors are aware of your problems, your physical problems relating to your accident, because they become very, very helpful witnesses. Relatives, of course, they want to help you if the matter goes to trial, but if you have a co-worker or if you have a neighbor who is not that close to you, and they can be able to testify that, yeah, John used to go out there and cut his grass and mow his grass and whatnot and chop wood, and he doesn't do that anymore because he's in pain. That's sometimes very persuasive evidence for a jury. Again, if you have any questions regarding a personal injury matter, we handle all types, and we'll be more than glad to meet with you and discuss it. Thank you very much.